Alrighty, what's up guys? Welcome back to the developer studio. I know it has been quite a while, but in the last two videos, first we did the HTML CSS, then we did the front end deployment, and now we are going to do the JavaScript portion, which is going to give us full functionality. Let me just move this here. There you go. So we're going to be able to enter some data here, make it show up, they'll show up here, enter some to-dos, and that kind of stuff. All right, so first thing we need to do is, let's go right here, select the new category form and new category input. That is this form and this input. So let me go ahead and grab those. Remember how I like to do things, guys. I don't like to waste your guys' time. So just so you guys know, we're going to be selecting these elements from the DOM using query selector, and we're going to be using the data attribute that we added to these elements. If you guys remember from episode 1, data new category input, these are the data attributes that we're going to be using to select the elements from the DOM. And then we're going to be setting them into variables so that we can use them throughout our code. All right, select categories container. So we need to get that from the DOM as well and save it. Boom, right there. Alrighty, so we have that set up. Now let's go ahead and set up our local storage keys, which we are for now. We're just gonna set up the categories one. So let's go ahead and do this. Boom. Local storage keys. Let's go ahead and create a submit event listener for the new category form. Let's go ahead and add a comment, event, add category form. Let's just do add category. And let's go ahead and do new category form dot add event listener. We're gonna do a submit. Let's go ahead and get the event arrow function, and inside of this we need to do e.prevent default, because when we submit the form we don't want it to refresh, we just want the data. Now how do we get all this stuff saved? So first of all, we need to get the data from the input. So let's go ahead and create a variable. We're going to do const category is going to be equal to new category, and guess it, input. Yep, we need the input value, not node value but input value. Alrighty, now we're going to do a little bit of validation right here. So const is category empty. We're going to do set that equal to not category, or, and the reason I'm not explaining it yet is because it's going to make more sense once I have this written out. Dot trim dot length. All right, so let's say our const category, we get the input value, and let's say it's this. It's an empty string. So this string evaluates to be a falsie. If it's a falsie, this is going to negate, so it's going to be a truthy, so it's going to be true. So if this category is empty, falsie goes to truthy, so we're going to run an if statement right now. And then with this second portion of this, the category.trim, let's say the user just wants to be mean and break our application. Let's say they enter this, then this .trim function is going to trim it down from the left and right like this, and it's going to get the length, which is going to be 0, which negating that goes to 1. So that means we're going to have to run the if statement that is going to handle these little errors. that can happen. So let's do if is category empty. Then we're gonna return, we want to break out of everything, console.log. This is gonna be a little challenge for you guys. If you guys want to create an alert system so we can alert the user of this error, for now we're just going to do a console.log, but you guys can make an alert pop up to tell the user to please enter a task. All right, so we handled that. Now we need to go ahead and create a variable for these categories that we're going to have. So let's go ahead and let's do a comment right here. Data. Let's just application data. Let's do application data. All right, and the reason I just copied it because I didn't want to type this whole thing out, but basically what this does is that it gets the local storage item, hence the get item with the local storage categories key, and then if it gets it and it's empty, then we're going to go ahead and get this empty array over here. But if it's not empty, then let's go ahead and fill this categories variable with whatever data that we're getting from this local storage. So that's the simple way of putting it. So on line 26, we are going to do a categories.push. Categories dot push, and we're going to push in an object, and it's going to have an ID, and this ID, since we don't have a way of generating a random ID and we don't want to complicate this too much, we're just going to use date.now to generate it, and we're going to turn this to a string. Okay, now this is going to have another property / key is going to be the category, and this category is going to store the category. And I know with this ES6 syntax Rgba, we can just do this, but for simplicity wise, I want to keep it like this so it's understandable for anyone that doesn't know ES6. And here we haven't created this function, but we're gonna go ahead and grab that right now since I didn't make it. Get random hex color like this. And if we go get this function, we're gonna create a comment right below line 27, and we're gonna call them helpers because they just help us. They're helping us complete this task, but they're not quite essential to what we're doing here. Okay, now that we have this, we can go ahead and clear the inputs. So whenever we click submit, we have a fresh form. So new category input dot value, let's set that equal to an empty string. And here is where the magic comes. In order for this to actually appear on the DOM, we need a way to re-render stuff and save stuff to the local storage. So let's go ahead and create a function called save and render. And then this function called save and render, right here, let's make functions, function save and render. We're gonna call a method function called save, and we're gonna call a function called render. Now we also need to create those save and render functions. So I need to get used to scrolling up more to not keep you guys looking at the bottom. So let's create a function called save. And let's create a function called render. Function called render. Now, in this save function, we're going to do something very, very simple. We're going to get whatever we just pushed into the array, and we're going to just save it with the key that we used. So right here, we're going to call save and render. It's going to go ahead and store this categories array with a newly pushed item. Since right here we pushed, we save it, and it's going to save it to this local storage key. And now we have it in local storage. However, we don't have it on the DOM. We need a way of having this on the DOM. So we need to create a function called render categories. Alrighty, so right here under this render function, let's create render categories. So in order to render the categories now, we need to go ahead and grab our HTML elements over here on the sidebar. So let me go ahead and grab these first two, because we're going to need these first two. Okay. And I'm just going to paste them right here. It's going to look, just let the errors be for now. So we need to first of all get the categories container, which we did. It's up here. So categories container dot inner HTML. We're going to go ahead and do plus equals. We're going to do the backticks, and we need to place this item right here. Now we need to loop through all the categories, through the categories array. Categories, and it's going to be .for each. See this over here? This is going to be an array, and it's going to be, we're going to use a for each on it, and we are going to extract some data out of each category that is within this array. So you remember that we're pushing objects, so we can destructure these objects. So we can have the ID, we can have the category, and we can have the color. And we're going to need this piece of HTML in here. We're going to need to do categories container dot inner HTML plus equal backticks like that and like this. So the reason we need to have it separate is because we're going to create a function inside of this render. We're going to call a function that's going to clear everything. It's going to basically scratch everything that is in our DOM, and it's going to re-render it. But since our, let's say if our categories array is empty, if we were to put this in here, it wouldn't render because there's nothing to loop over. A solution, alternative solution to this would be to push this into the categories array every time. But why do we make it complicated? Let's just render this one little element. Let's add it to inner HTML right outside. No need to complicate things. Now, simple enough. Right here, we can just replace work with a dynamic value. It's going to be category. We are also going to need to store this ID in this list item. So if we do, let's go ahead and add a data attribute to this list item. It's going to be data-category-id, and we can set that data attribute equal to the ID that we have. Now, we can also, now that we have the color in hex form, we can also set the value of the box to the color right here. And we are on our way to success, guys. We need a way. See, if you see, we've created this random hex function right here. We've created the render categories, the save and render. Oh, I accidentally opened that. We need to create the load event listener. So right at the bottom, all the way at the bottom, we need to have an event listener on the window, and we're going to listen for the loading of our page. And when it loads, we're going to call the render function, which is basically going to execute everything. It's going to render categories, render form options, render to-dos, everything. This function right here is where the magic begins. All right, if we go ahead and save, let's go ahead and see what happens. Okay. All right. See, we have a little bug right here. A little bug. See, we're having the hard-coded elements that we have in our HTML, and it's also rendering this all categories that we have rendered right here on line 49. A way to fix this, because we're going to need to clear everything, we need to call a function in the render that is going to be called clear child elements. Because if we don't clear all the child elements, we're gonna pass in the categories container. If we don't clear all the child elements every time, we're just gonna keep adding on top and on top of them. So we're gonna be rendering over them, and it's just gonna be a huge list of re-rendered stuff. Let's see. How can I demonstrate this to you guys? Let's see. Looks like we have error. Category, line 20. We misspelled category. I saw that earlier. Category. All right. Let's go ahead and refresh. Watch, we're gonna add something. We're gonna do add. And then, you see what just happened? Oh, we actually have something rendering. Oh, right here. That's weird. Does this one have it too? No. Darn. We're gonna have to clear the local storage. Application, local storage. All right. If we add something, boom, all categories. You see, it didn't take this one off. It just went ahead and added again. Let's do it again. Watch what's gonna happen. Work. Boom. It just re-adds everything. So the easy solution is to call a function called cleared child elements that we are going to create, and it's going to be in our helpers. So let's go ahead and create that function. Clear child elements. We're going to take in the element. The element is usually going to be the container, and we're going to do a while loop. And while this container, see this categories container, is what holds all of these list items. So while the element dot first child exists, so while this container has children inside of it, let's go ahead and remove these elements. Remove child, and then we're going to do element dot first child, because we want to remove the element first child, not the whole container. And if you guys see right here, boom, we have a perfectly working sidebar. So hello, boom, nice. So I'm going to go ahead and clear it and go ahead and add some decent stuff. Let's add school, and let's add work, and there we go. Let's see what we have to move on to now. So new to do functionality. So we're going to have to select new to do form and new to do select and new to do input. You guys know the whole deal. We need to select this whole form. We need to select the selector and the input in order to have this data inside of our JavaScript. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me just copy those. You guys see I'm just copying and pasting the necessary stuff that we don't really need to type out. All right, so this is selecting the form that I showed you, the select and the input. Now we also need to select the container. Just like we did with the categories, we also select the container for this. To-dos container. You guys can see how the logic is kind of going. It's kind of a little pattern. All right, let's set up the local storage keys. We're going to set up the to-dos right here. Gonna copy and paste it. Line 18, that is what we just pasted in. We're just creating a local storage for the to-dos key. And now we're going to create the same thing. We need somewhere to store our application data, a variable. If it has data in our local storage, let's go ahead and fill this variable with this data, else give me a empty array. All right, now we need to create a submit event listener for the new to do form. Okay, we'll go ahead and do this right below this one. The event is going to be to add to do. All right, so to the new to do form, we're going to add an event listener just like we did to the category form, and it's going to be of type submit. Let's go ahead and get that event, the arrow function, and then we need to do the same deal, prevent default. We don't want it to refresh the browser, we just want the data. Now we need to get the input, but this time we're not going to get it and store it in the variable, since we're not gonna really do any logical stuff. If the user wants to enter an empty to do, go for it. So we're going to do to-dos dot push, and we're going to push in an object again with an ID. Same thing, guys. Same date.now dot to string. All right, comma. This one is going to have a category ID, and this category ID is going to come from the new to do select. Our whole application revolves around IDs in the background, so these IDs on the sidebar that we generated are the ones that are going to be in here. So that's how in the background the logic revolves around the IDs. So new to do select dot value. Remember, the value is not the word here that it's going to show up. So for example, school and work, the value is not going to be school and work. The value is going to be IDs in the background, right? So let's get the to do now from the new to do input, and let's go ahead and clear the inputs now. So new to do input dot value, set it equal to an empty string, and right above that, just to be in order, new to do select dot value, and let's go ahead and set it to the default, which is going to be all categories. All right, now guess what do we do, guys? What magic function did I tell you that we created that will just save and render? Yeah, that's right, it's called save and render. So now we haven't implemented the logic. Save and render doesn't just magically save and render stuff. We need to go ahead and get the to-dos to save. So we're going to do local storage dot set item. We're going to set an item in the local storage with the local storage to-dos key, and the data is going to be the to-dos that we are adding. So if we add a to-do, our array now has a to-do in it, and this to-do is going to be saved in local storage. So now it is saved in local storage, but it is not rendered. Remember what I told you guys that happens if we don't clear the child elements? It's just gonna re-render all the to-dos over and over. So we need to clear the to-dos container. Okay. Yeah. Let's go ahead and do a colon right here. Render categories. We need to call a function now in the render called render. Actually guys, let's go ahead and create the render form options first, like we were going in order. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's do render form options. It's the same deal with this though. We still have to clear the elements of the form options, because if not, we'll just have a bunch of form options that repeat over and over. So if we have all categories school work, and then we add another one, let's say gym, then we're gonna have all school work gym. You guys saw how it looked. So let's go ahead and pass in the new to do select. Okay. And you know the select is a container because it holds all the options within. And let's go ahead and render the form options. Okay. We need to create a function, of course, to handle this. So function render form options. And in this function, we are going to need to go get our HTML options right here. Now, how are we going to get it to be in the form options? So we need to do new to do select, and the inner HTML, since the form options go, the options go inside of the select HTML element, we can just add the options through here as children. So same way we did the other one. New to do select inner HTML, that's going to render the default one. Same reason why we did it here. Now we need to do categories. Notice how we're going to use the categories because we're going to need that same ID. Categories dot for each. We're going to deconstruct some stuff from this object. So we're going to do the ID. Same thing, the category, except we don't need the color. You don't see any color here, so we don't need any color. All right, that's the beautiful thing about deconstructing objects. You just get what you need. And same deal in here, new to do select dot inner HTML plus equals, and let's go ahead and paste that in there. And the value this time though, remember, the value is going to be the IDs from the categories on the sidebar, and this text value is going to be the dynamic one, just like the ID is going to be the category. Make sure your ID does have an underscore if you made it with an underscore. I say squirt, underscore if you want, underscore. Okay. Now we rendered the form options. Let's see. Boom. Boom, guys. Look at that. Look at that. We have them right there. However, now we kind of need to implement this to-dos functionality right here. We're not done with the form. We're done getting the categories into the form. but now we need these to work for us. So how do we do this? Create event listener for submit to do form. All right. Yeah, we already have that right here. Save and render. We set up that. Create submit event listener for new to do form. Create render form options. Okay, but however, we need to create a function called render to do's. And in this function, we're literally going to render the to-dos. So right below this, function render to-dos. And we're gonna go ahead and grab that big to-do. For example, this one. And we're going to copy it and paste it somewhere right now. But let's see, new to do. In order to do this, guys, we're going to need to go up here. Oh, nice, we did get it. We're going to need this to-dos container. Okay, because we are going to add the to-dos in there. So to do dot for each, and then we can extract some data from these to-dos that we're pushing in. Where's the objects that we have? Just so you guys know what we're going to extract. See, this is an object. So we can extract an ID, a category ID, and we can extract a to-do. So that is exactly what we're going to need. We are going to need an ID. We're going to need a category ID. And we're going to need the actual to-do. Our little arrow function. And let's go ahead and do to-dos container dot inner HTML plus equal the backticks. Let's just align some stuff right here. So here we're going to delete this text because now we have our dynamic variable with a to-do coming in to work for us to do. The ID is going to be necessary right here on the actual icons. So the data dash edit to do, we're going to add this data attribute and we're going to set it equal to the underscore ID. Same thing here at the bottom, data dash delete dash to do, set it equal to the ID. Okay, and that's pretty much, oh wait, category ID. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The category ID though is what associates these to-dos to their category. So how do we, you see we don't have any color here. How do we fill in this color? So we're going to do some magic right here. So for each to-do that we have here, let's just do an equals. We'll go ahead and fill the left part out right now. We're going to loop through the categories. Since we have the category ID, we can loop through the categories and we can find a category with the ID that we need. And so we just had to check where the category's ID, where a category inside of the category's ID is equal to the category ID that we're currently looping through. That is all we have to look for. And you can see we have a little bug error right here because we haven't done anything over here. And once we find one of these, it's going to return an object So we can deconstruct from this object the color and the category. And we can then use the category right here. Category. And we can also now use the color right here. Now, how do we get this Rgba value? Well, we have our other helper function that is going to help us do this. I'll go ahead and leave the GitHub repo so you guys can copy these. It's called convert hex to Rgba. So to not get some logic in here or function calling right there in the HTML to keep it clean, we're going to go ahead and call this function right here, and we're gonna store it in the value that we returned, the Rgba that is returned to us. And we're going to save it in this variable called background color. So convert hex to Rgba, and just pass in the color, and let's just pass in an opacity of 20. Okay, and from what it looks like, we should be on the roll. Now, to get rid of these to-dos, because these aren't actually part of our to-dos, we need to call a function, clear child element, to go ahead and clear whatever's there. Clear child element. Let's go ahead and to-dos, clear the to-dos container. All right. Now let's go ahead and select the school. Do I love school JK. And we have a little bug. We have a little bug. Oh, we forgot to use the background color here for one. But that's not the issue though, guys, alright? That's not the issue. Background color. And we also forgot to use the color here for the text. Color. So let's go where we're adding a to-do. To-dos. New to-do form. Push, new category. Input dot value. We need the value. We need the value. All right, let's go ahead and clear the to-dos. Just the to-dos, because we still want to keep the sidebar stuff. So school, I love school JK. And there we have it. So now let's go ahead and see what we need to implement. The new to-do functionality, create render form options. We needed another step there, which was to render the to-dos. We got that done. Delete to-do functionality. We can go ahead and implement that since we already went ahead and added the IDs to the delete icon on the each to-do. So let's go ahead and delete some to-dos. So create click event listener event. Let's see. No, we're going to do, yeah, let's go ahead and this event listener is going to handle two things. It's going to load the edit to do form with values of to do we click on, or it's going to delete the to do. So what we're going to do here, which is very cool, is that we're not going to add an event listener to each icon individually. We're going to add it to the whole container, and we're just going to use an if statement to check if we're clicking on the icon. So to-dos container dot add event listener, we want to be listening for a click, and we want the event, and we're going to want to use an if statement right here. and we are going to use some special JavaScript stuff that it's pretty neat to learn about. e.target.classList. We're going to use the class list, and we're going to get class list gets the whole an array of the classes on the element that we click on, but we just want the element at the first index, which is, you see right here, 0, 1. And that is how we're going to distinguish between the edit and the trash one. So we're going to get that, and we're going to check, is this equal to the FA trash alt? If it's not, then let's not do nothing with this whole event. And now we need to look for this to do that we need to delete. So let's create a variable to do to delete index. The main thing I wanted to show with this project is the variety of methods, and there's so many ways to do this. Like, we could have done this in a more logical, faster approach, but this is just pretty straightforward in my opinion. So we need to call a method that's called findIndex. Literally, it's beautiful. And we're gonna do to do, and we need to get the to do underscore ID, and we need to compare it with the e.target. That is the element we click on. If it's an icon that has a delete icon, data set dot edit to do. So basically, if we click on this delete, we're clear to go inside the if statement and perform all the logic. Now, is this delete icon that has the data edit to do data attribute, which of these IDs is equal to one of the to-dos inside the to-dos? If we find it, go ahead and give me that. All right, and then we want to do why is there a space here? To-dos dot splice, a nice little method here as well, and we want to splice a to-do to delete index, and we just want to eliminate that one element. Guess what, guys? We call the save and render function. Now we don't need to add any more logic anymore, because this right here deleted the element from the array that we have right here. So now the save and render is going to save the array with the deleted item, and now it's going to re-render everything, but without that item that we just deleted, because it's not there anymore. How crazy is that? How about that? All right, cool. I'm getting a little too excited. I missed recording. All right, so if we go ahead and save that, and let's go ahead. Oh, you guys see that little flash? That's because we're deleting. We'll fix that later. We just have to get rid of the element in the HTML. So delete me, click, delete, gone. Just like that. Refresh. He ain't coming back. Okay. So now let's go ahead and do the edit to do functionality. And that same functionality is going to be in this event listener, but just in another if statement. So this if statement, we're going to be looking at the e.target.classList, same thing. We need that element in the array at the first index, which distinguishes between the trash and the edit. And we need to look for the FA-edit now. And then when we click on this edit icon, we need to hide the new to do form. .style. display. We set that equal to none. We need to hide it. So watch. Click edit, it hides. But now we need to show the edit to do form. We need to add some style, display, and we're gonna set that equal to flex. Okay. Awesome. Now what needs to happen is we need to create a variable outside of this event. Let to do to edit equal null, because we're going to have a nested event. If we didn't put this variable outside, we had to nest an event listener, and like I said, I want to make this as simple as possible. We would have to remove the event, or we would have to use some different properties that there are for the event that I didn't really want to get into. So we need to do to edit. We need to find it. So we know that there's a method to do that, right? So in the to-dos, we need to find a to-do with the to-do ID equal to the e.target.dataset.edit to do. All right, you guys understand that? The edit icon has an ID with it in the edit to do data attribute, and we're comparing that ID that we got from where we click to all the ones in the to-dos, and whichever one matches, give me that one. Now the edit to do select, oh, we don't have those yet. Let's go ahead and grab those. We need to grab the edit to do form from the DOM. So we're gonna go up. We have the new to do form right here. So let's just go ahead and paste them right below. And it's these right here. Same deal. It's the form, the ones that are right below each other. Watch. Create to do form, edit to do form, right here. We just changed the new to edit. All right, back to our logic. So we need to load this data into that form. So the way we're going to do it, edit to do select dot value. We set it equal to the to do to edit dot category category ID. We're going to set the edit to do input dot value equal to the to do to edit dot to do. And you guys can extract some variables from the objects, but I just wanted to make this part very clear. So that's why I left it as to do. I didn't destruct anything. Okay, so now let's go see what's up. So we click on it. Oh, we got a little issue here. We aren't rendering the form options for the edit to do form. So we can just copy what we have right here. We just need to change it to edit to do select, duplicate it, same thing, shift option down, changes the word edit to do, and you guys will see that if we click now, we have school. But you can see that it's duplicating. You guys know why it's duplicating. We have had that error before. We should know where to go back, and it's going to be right here. Clear child element. We need to clear the edit to do select. Now if we go ahead and check what's up, you guys see it's working perfectly fine. So we click on it, we're loaded with the data that we need. the to-do that we had. Now we need a way to save it. So we need to create a submit event listener for this edit to do form. Now where are we? Right here. Event add to do. Let's create it right below this one. Let's create an event comment and let's edit to do. Now we need to do edit to do form the add event listener. We need to do a submit, and then we need to get the event, and we need to prevent this form from refreshing. And basically what we're going to do here is that, you guys remember, oh, I see what's going to happen. You know, for the time being, we're going to copy this variable right here, let to do to edit. We're going to put it right here, because this is where we're going to use it. This right here, due to what's going on down here, is holding a reference to this to do that we found inside our to-dos array. So since it's holding a reference, the neat thing is that we can just do the following. We can do to edit dot category ID. We set it equal to the edit to do select dot value. The reason we're doing this is because this is from the new form. This is from the data. They can possibly, once they load the edit to do form, they can change this. So we need to load that value instead into this reference variable inside the to-dos. And now we can do to edit the to do, and let's just change that as well. Edit to do input dot value. Now we need to display our new form now, because we're done editing. This is dot style dot display equal to none new to do form dot style dot display, and set that equal to flex. We're just making the new to do form show up since we're done with the edit to do form, since we're going to submit at this point. Now this edit to do form dot value, we want to reset it for next time that we use it. So edit to do input dot value, set that to nothing right there. And once this has all been done, we need to save everything that changed, save and render. Now that has happened, you can go ahead and refresh. I love school. Let's just change it to I love school. We save it, and we see that it re-renders with the new content right there. We get the new to do form showing up again, so we can add something now. So now let's go ahead and let's handle this, the currently selected functionality. So you see how on right here it's supposed to show what the currently selected category is. Well, at the moment it is not, because we haven't made it work. So we need to select the currently viewing element. We'll put this one all the way down here for currently viewing. And let's see, we're going to handle this in the render function. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and add this comment right here. Since we're going to be handling it in the render, we need to set the current viewing category, and we need to create a variable. we need to also set up the local storage keys. So let's set up the local storage just so we can keep the order. Where are you? It's all the way up here, right here. And we also need to create a variable for it. I forgot to note that in the right there. Variable. So we're creating this local storage key, and you can see here we're not doing or array because this is just going to be a string. So basically, if there's something in the local storage, then give it to me. If not, I think the local storage gives us null, which you'll see later. It's a little bit weird. So now that we have those created, let's go to the render function again. We're gonna do if not selected category ID. Basically, if there is no selected category ID or selected category ID is equal to null, then let's go ahead and do this. Let's set the currently viewing, else we're going to need to find the category that we need to show. So const current category is equal to categories dot find. We need to find the category with the selected category ID, and then let's go ahead and do category right here, and then let's get the ID from this individual category. And when the ID from a category inside of the categories is equal to selected category ID, go ahead and give me that one. And then we're going to set the currently viewing inner HTML equal to the following string. That. Okay. So let's go ahead and test this out. Oh, actually, let's see. I think we might have a little issue right here because we haven't set up event listeners for the sidebar right here. So what needs to happen is we need to create a click event listener for the categories container. So we're going to do this event. We're going to get selected category ID, and we need to do an event listener on the categories container, just like we did for the to-dos container. So we don't have to add an event listener to each individual list item. We're just going to add it to the whole container. And then we're going to use the if statement like we did previously in the to-dos container to see if the e.target, we're going to use a different method this time. We're going to do e.target.tag name is a tag name .to lowercase because a tag name is returned to us in uppercase. So to lowercase, is it equal to input? If it is, then let's go ahead and run our little logic. We'll do const new category. Actually no, not input, li, sorry. So if we had to do another if statement in here, so if not e.target .dataset .category ID, basically if it is null, which is a falsy, then it'll go to truthy. Then selected category is equal to null. Else selected category ID is equal to e.target.dataset.category ID. Okay. And then after this, we need to save and render. So if we click, we have an error. We definitely have an error. Oh. We need to set this right here, that variable, to, let's see, current category dot category. Let's see. There you go. Now it's working. We forgot to change the static string to a dynamic one. So now we need to actually filter the to-dos, guys. We need to filter the to-dos. We see that we're currently viewing whatever we're viewing, but we aren't actually changing what we're viewing. So in the render to-dos, we're going to change it up a bit. Render to-dos to render. We're going to set that equal to to-dos. Now, what we're going to do here is if the selected category ID and selected category ID is not equal to null. And the reason I had to do both is because sometimes it returns null as an object, and then sometimes it returns null as a string. So if you guys know, I'm not perfect here, but if you guys know why, please let me know. So to-dos, we're gonna set the to-dos to render now. If the selected category ID and selected category ID is not equal to null, basically if one of the categories is selected other than all categories, then we want to do to-dos dot filter, and we're gonna filter by the ID. So basically right here, we're going to do dot category ID, and is it equal to the selected category ID? If it is, give me those to-dos. Give me all the to-dos that are equal to the selected category ID. All right. Now, what we need to change is this to-dos to render. And now, if you do work, school, there we go. Now you can see that it's not working on refresh because we haven't saved it to our local storage. We need to save the ID. At the moment, it's just being saved temporarily. So right here below this, on line 129, we added this line that will save the selected category ID to a key right here. So we save it, and we'll see that this will now, see, school, we're on school, work, refresh, it stays on work, all categories, it stays on all categories, school, it stays on school. Okay, cool. Now, the last thing we need to do is to change the category color functionality. What we need to do is add an event listener to the categories container, like we did right here. But this event is going to get selected, and it's going to get selected category color. So it's going to be categories container the add event listener. But this isn't going to be a submit one. It's going to be a change. We're going to listen for a change on an event that if this event has a tag name, we're going to need to lowercase this. If it has a tag name, let's see, where did I mess up? equal to input. Then let's go ahead and do something. So we need to get the new category color by saving it in a variable. We get it by e.target.value. Cool. Now we need to get, the category ID from this category that we just clicked on to change the color. So category ID is equal to e.target.parent element .data set .category ID. Right here we have the, where are you? The render categories. This input right here is inside of this li, but this li is the one that has the ID. So what we did was we chose the parent, we got the parent element, and then we got the data set category ID. So let's go back to 120. We got the parent element, data set category ID. And we need to do const category to edit is going to be equal to the categories that we have, categories, and we're going to find a category with a category that has an ID equal to the category ID from up here. So from the list item that we selected on the sidebar, we got the ID. Now we need to get the category we need to edit. So we're going to find all the categories that find, and then we're going to edit it. So whenever we find that, we're just going to do category to edit dot color equal to new category color. That's simple. And we need to save and render. And if we go ahead and refresh this and just change this color like that, let's change it drastically. Why is it not changing? Alrighty guys, we had some technical difficulties, so I'm sorry if something looks different here. Let me just 169. Let me just delete this. I had to go through some debugging here, but we have got the error, and the error has nothing to do with what we were doing. Actually, I moved this one. I want to leave everything as it was. All right, we created this change function. It's all good. The issue is on the previous one, on this click. Since we have an event listener on the same thing, we had this save and render out here, meaning every time I would click, it would save it and render, so I would never get to change the value. But if we bring the save into the li, if only it happens when we're working with the li, then look what's happening. Now we got something going. And we have one more thing to work on. So where are you? Right here on the side. Let's make it bold. Let's make it part of the bold. We need to add a span. We need to say delete, and we need to add a class equal to that one that we said, this one. And then, okay. Let's see, where is it at? Currently viewing. Oh, it's direct child. You know what? We can take it out to not make it bold. So over here at the end, space, save. There you go. Now we got that working how it is supposed to. I think we can make this a capital, just so it looks, yeah, nice. So now what we need to do is we need to add an event listener that is going to handle that delete functionality. So let's go up right here. The event is delete selected category. We're gonna do currently viewing dot add event listener. We need to click, and we need to capture the event right here. And then we need an if statement. If the e.target.tag name .2 lowercase, always .2 lowercase, is equal to span, which is at delete, then we want to get the categories. We want to basically change the categories to delete everything. So watch, we're gonna set the categories that has everything equal to categories, but it's going to be filtered, and each category right here, and we're going to filter by each category with an ID not equal to the selected current category. So basically, if the categories that are going to remain are all the categories that the category ID does not equal to the one that we are currently on. So meaning that all work and something else. So if we were on school, then work would remain. Okay. Now, for the to-dos, we also need to do the same for the to-dos. For to-dos, we need to set those equal to to-dos.filter. We need to filter by the to-do, and then to-do.category ID. We need to set that, make sure that it's not equal to the selected category ID. So basically, if the to-do has a category ID not equal to the current one that we're on, we don't want to delete it. We only want to delete that one that we are currently on. And now we just need to reset the selected current category, since we're going to delete the current one. Do this, and then we want to save and render. All right, let's create another category, delete me. We go to it, let's add some categories, delete, and if we click delete, and it's gone, and it made sure to take us back to the main one. And we can tell by, if we had a work one, we can see that we have work. And that concludes this project, guys. We have got it running, and it is ready to go on your portfolio. If you guys have any questions, any idea projects, please let me know. I am going to be for sure uploading more consistently. I have my life together now, so that is great, and we are going to be having quite a bit of fun. I have quite a bit of fun making these videos. I hope you guys can tell in my voice, but yeah, really cool, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.